Hello everybody and welcome back to episode 2 of Theory Crafting. And today we're going to be doing a theory crafting episode on chapter 1 of Ciconia, phase 1. Chapter 1 is called the Battle Standards Festival, I'm pretty sure. And it's longer than I thought, because I was talking to Hollyon Sama on here, and we were talking about Ciconia and theories, and they said something that it made me think that the talk between Sheshat and Tojiro Mitake, I thought that this was in a different chapter than the fight between Jaden and Meow, but it's actually all the same chapter. It's just a long first chapter, so there's a lot to unpack. So let's start at the beginning. It starts with Meow on a building, and he falls down. He jumps off the building, and right before he hits the ground, he starts flying because he's a Goblin Knight. He's not actually committing suicide. There's an interesting bit where he's flying by a new steam train. They have new steam trains in Tokyo, but they don't run on steam. It goes into this history lesson about this thing called Spiritium and how it's the fuel source that they use now. And Spiritium, when it's used, it spurts out a white mist that looks like water vapor. And how you can tell that a big city is around because of the Spiritium clouds above the city, which can't be too good for the city. I think that might just be foreshadowing for like the end, and how once all the ADMSs stop working, or they bug out, and everything starts getting all messed up. I think that's just part of, like, it's just kind of foreshadowing that there's a lot of pollution, and they might not take as good care of the planet as they should. Because it didn't say Spiritium was a clean fuel. It said that Spiritium puts giant puffy clouds in the sky, which it doesn't sound very good to me. And then it goes on to the battle between Jaden and Meow, which Jaden wins because he's taller and he's able to punch Meow. And yeah, there's not much that goes on in there other than it shows off, like, it's a good introduction to the arms, the Gauntlet Knights, and exactly what they can do. And it kind of shows the extent of what they can do, even though the whole battle takes place in virtual reality. It still shows to the extent that a Gauntlet Knight can, how powerful they are, and the sorts of attacks and how they fight. And it's a really good opening. It's really interesting. I really like it as an opening. It's pretty good. And then after the fight, like 4 other people come. It's Gunhild, Chloe, Lilia, and Koshka. And as I was reading this, I'm going to say something about one of the that's not about chapter 1. That's about the final. If you're watching these along while reading, for some reason that's a bad idea, because I'm going to talk about something that happens right at the very end. So spoiler alert if you haven't read that far. At the very final Tea Party data fragment, the very final data fragment after you beat the game, the 16th one, when Gunhild goes into that facility, it makes her look like it paints her as like a bad guy. Well, I guess that's not the final one. It's the 15th one. The final one, they're talking about the Book of Revelation. Sorry, but in the 15th one, Gunhild goes to the secret laboratory. It's the place where Lilia and Koshka are kept, but she runs into Lilia there, and she's talking about how she's got to fake a whole bunch of stuff and act like a whole bunch of stuff. She's doing a whole acting thing to get Koshka to be friends with her and stuff like that. And her whole, I think it's been a little while since I read it, but I think she said that whole meow thing that she does isn't even real. And it kind of, I know that whole scene is painted so that Gunhild looks like she's the plant from the Three Kings. But the scene might actually point to, I think Lilia might be the plant. Even though I have nothing other than, like, I think I'm more suspicious of her than I am of Gunhild. Even though I think Gunhild is, like, I think Gunhild has some secrets. She has some secrets. But I think that Lilia's the plant, and the Gunhild scene is a red herring that also kind of tells you what the real thing is in the background. So, and I think that's really interesting, if it's true. So, but basically, it's Gunhild, Lilia, Chloe and Koshka show up, and it shows how Chloe always gets in trouble when Lilia and Koshka mess up, and then they all get into a battle together. And then there's an awesome opening sequence, and then it goes into a narrator talking about some opening battle of a standard festival opening ceremony thing. I don't think too much. I don't know. If there's something important in that part with the narrator talking, then someone tell me, because I didn't see anything that important other than, like, saying that the battle standard practice is happening. But so we're about to get into, like, there's a scene where the whole bunch of kids are just getting taught. In the comments section, I told Hollyon Sama that I would read their comment that is on my Book of Revelations video. And so that's what I'm going to do right now. And we're going to talk about a whole bunch of these theories. And then we're going to go into the classroom talk, and then the little debate between Tojiro and Sachet. So the comment that was on it goes like this. Here, I'll read it. I'll give some comments. That was a cool theory crafting video. I liked it, and it made me think about references. Spoiler. Ciconia speculations. I think it was fairly obvious from the start that the Book of Revelations has something to do with Ciconia. Ryokishi uses classical references regularly, like he did with Umineko, the Divine Comedy, and Then There Were None. I think it's not wrong at all to claim that he uses the Book of Revelations this time for Ciconia. I feel that the second classical work, if you can call it that, is probably Neon Genisis Evangelion. I've only read the first... I've only seen the first 4 episodes, the first 6 episodes of Neon Genesis Evangelion. And it was pretty okay. I feel like it's just because I haven't really had time to watch it. If this video gets 100 likes, then I'll watch all of Neon Genesis Evangelion. And then maybe maybe I'll understand the references to Neon Genesis Evangelion from Ciconia. And then I might do some theory crafting on it. But only if this one, the theory crafting on chapter 1 of Ciconia gets 100 likes, so... Okay, more of the comment. I will just mention some theories I have and things I found interesting. Meow, Ver, Drasig, or Gestress, and Tojiro as parents. I think that Vier is the mother, but the only reason that I think that is because there's a scene right after Vier appears where it's talking from the point of view of a mother, and it's of Meow's mother, and it seems like it's going right from Vier into that, but that could also be a red herring. I'm not even sure if Gestress is a real person, though. I don't know what Gestress is. I wouldn't be surprised if Gestress was something not from this world, I guess you could say. I don't know. I could be very wrong, though. Maybe everyone in this are just normal people, but I feel like the Three Kings, and I don't know. I feel like with all the biblical references, I think there's got to be more to it than just Gestress is a human being, or maybe Gestress is, but like the Three Kings could be more powerful. But we're talking about the Three Kings next week. And Gestress, so we'll get to that later. Natural disasters equals food crisis, illness, the drones, etc. Natural disasters, I guess they're talking about the natural disasters that happened in the story. The underground research group translating the words of God can be connected. Oh, sorry, these are just the biblical references. References to the complicated birth situation which can be likened to the birth of Jesus. That's, I got completely off topic over the whole, who's the mom, that I didn't read that whole thing. So, Meow might be like Jesus in this, is what they're saying. And the natural disasters from the Bible equals the stuff that happens in Ciconia. And the underground research group translating the words of gods can be connected to the translations of the Holy Bible. So that is this is not in the Bible, but basically the Bible wasn't written in English. So it was translated through many different languages. Especially the Old Testament was translated through much more languages before it got to English. So this group of people that are translating the words of God could be almost the same. It could be connected to the translation of the Bible that happened, and that could make sense. It is not that weird when you consider that almost every Gauntlet Knight connected to the research group, including Meow and Lingji and the guards, has a heavenly feel to them. I'm not sure what heavenly feel means. Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess that's just... I'm not sure if they have heavenly feels. I guess that's just something that you'd have to... It would be a personal thing, just something that you'd have to feel about it, because I'm not sure if I felt... But then again, I also didn't get the biblical reference. I got the biblical references, but I didn't realize how important they would be the first time that I was reading. So maybe on my second read through I might notice them having a more heavenly feel, but I didn't get that when I first read. Prophet Meow foretelling the future of humanity equals the prophets writing down the Holy Bible. They foretell the same thing by translating the words of God. Oh yeah, that makes sense. And then they say, I feel that Ryukishi will use Prophet Meow to show us religious illusions, which can be likened to the illusion of witches. The reader needs to decide between believing in it or claiming humans are behind it. I honestly think he will do a is God real discussion in the near future. I think with all of the biblical stuff going on, I think that it would be impossible for him to not go into a is God real discussion here. I think that if he doesn't do it, then he had better have something really big planned other than that. That's all I gotta say. About the last sentence there. The beginning I think that there's a really awesome scene later on. I can't wait to get to that where the Prophet Meow is talking to normal Meow, and it's the same scene from Umineko where Beatrice is talking to Battler, and she's saying that she can't tell. There's no way that she can prove that Battler anything that she's saying is real, and that's when she introduces the red truth. And the first time that I was reading it, I was kind of like, are they going to do something like the red truth again? But no, they go completely different in Ciconia. But yeah, I do think that was very obviously an allusion to Umineko and the whole is this real or is this not real sort of thing. Like, what is the truth? At the end, we will probably see Ryukishi's image of God, and he will surely wrap up the story with a confusing and open ending. I'm not sure if he will wrap up the story, because Higurashi ended pretty good. It wasn't that Higurashi ended. All the loose threads were pretty much tied up. I thought that it was a pretty good ending. And Umineko, I loved the ending too as well, but obviously it is confusing and open. But Umineko was much more of a game. He was playing a game, and then there was still the thing with Umineko was there was a definitive, actual, real ending. He just didn't tell you what it was, and you had to figure it out for yourself. So, with Umineko, I'm not entirely I'm not sure if he'll do the same thing with Ciconia, because I don't even know if Ciconia is actually a game. I think parts of this theory are from Hollyon Sama are they're assuming that this is a mystery, that this is a game and that the reader has to figure something out. Because it says the reader needs to decide between believing in it or claiming humans are behind it. I'm not sure if this is going to be a game like that, like Umineko at all. It might just be, obviously there's going to be puzzles and shit. That's why I'm doing this, but I'm not sure if it's going to be the same sort of game as Umineko was. But I could be wrong. That's why I'm including your theories too. Another theory I have is that Prophet Meow is one of the meta players and our opponent, and also the new version of the witch theory. That is a pretty good theory. That's pretty much what I thought. I agree with that. I wouldn't be surprised if he switches to another look in Phase 2, revealing that he is not Meow. I don't know about that. But, I guess I wouldn't be surprised, but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't do that either. At the second prophecy scene, he says very interesting lines like, "My adorable Meow," and generally urging him to find the three kings. This mentality in line is closest to Tojiro, but I could see the prophet being very gesterous as well. Well, okay, so my theory on that is that The Prophet Meow it's supposed to be like another, like, not even personality. It's a program that was put into her head by into Meow's head by someone. And I think that the person who put it into Meow's head is Tojiro. That's what I think. And it would make sense that it was being controlled by Tojiro, but I don't think that it will turn into him. I think that it's just a program that was planted into Meow's head by Tojiro, or maybe even her mom. Regardless, if I am correct, it would mean that the opponent of Meow is most likely one of her parents. Yep, that's I think it's I think that Tojiro is going to be one of the opponents, but we don't even know if I think that there's going to be a twist with Meow, that Meow is going to be, I think that Meow is going to be one of our opponents, or if we do it, is one of the opponents. I think that Meow might be one of the main opponents, like one of the main bad guys. Or maybe even like one of those sympathetic bad characters where they're being controlled by they could be controlled by that program that's in her head. You know? That would be pretty interesting. Which also would align with Ryokishi's theme of old and young people. The other possibility, which is a bit more obvious in my mind, is the meta-fragment idea, meaning that Prophet Meow is just a meta-version of Meow who has experienced the same fate many times. That is a really interesting theory that would make a lot of sense considering Higurashi and Umineko. And there's going to be fragments. There's going to be fragments, even if the story doesn't repeat over and over again. If it doesn't go into fragments and shit, then it's not a When They Cry story. That's one of the main. It's part of the backbone of When They Cry. And it would be really cool if Prophet Meow, if Meow had already gone through this over and over again, and it's showing us the last time that they go through it. That would actually be really cool. But I don't know. We won't know. If we get to the second one, if Phase 2 comes out and it does repeat, then I'll be okay with it. I'll be okay with it. I mean, yeah. I feel like the way the story ends here, I'm not sure why he would repeat it. But yeah, if he did, I won't be too upset. But I do think the really interesting stuff was just about to happen in the story, and I want to see what happens next, and not what the thing with Umineko and Higurashi was like all the characters were dead at the end of each arc or episode. So how, like, it made sense to restart it, but here he just ended it in the middle. He ended it in the middle. That's why I'm not sure if it's going to be a reset. The Three Kings are the human culprit idea, but honestly I could see them not being real, and it's only the extension of the illusion/witch theory. Yeah, that's what I was talking about before, so maybe we do agree more on this than I thought, that they might not be real, or they could be meant to be, like, not human. Or they could be the human idea. Regardless, it is weird that Prophet Meow is against them and want Peace Meow to search for them. He seemed to be against Peace Meow because of the fate he arrives at. It is weird that Prophet Meow is against them and wants Peace Meow search for them. He seems to be against Peace Meow because of the fate he arrives at. No, I think that Prophet Meow is... I think Prophet Meow is on Meow's side. Is on Peace Meow's side. That's what it looks like. And, like, to me, I think that Meow is... Or it's just feigning. It's just all fake, and it's not really part of Meow's side. But that wouldn't be very interesting, I think. That doesn't necessarily mean that Prophet Meow isn't bad, because we don't even know Meow could... The way the episode, that Phase 1 ended, Meow could 100% become a villain. 100%. Which means in the repetitions, Meow has never found and killed all the three kings yet. So Meow has... Okay, so Meow has been going through over and over again and knows that the end game is killing the three kings. Or at least probably stopping the three kings' plan. If we're talking about what I want to be true, then I would say Meta Tojiro being the prophet. Everything he stands for and says is very similar to the patterns of the prophet Meow we are seeing. I can also see the duality of him going against the three kings he is working with. Yeah. I was just reading chapter 1 of phase 1 as the thing that I'm theory crafting on now, and that is kind of what Tojiro was talking about. He was talking about how we need to keep debating different sides of the two sides of the coin in order to arrive at what is best. And he wants to believe in humanity, but also knowing some of the stuff that he says later, he also has no hope in humanity. So I guess he's trying to put all of his hope in humanity into Meow, probably. That's pretty cool. So I think that Tojiro probably would, because he it seems like he thinks that people should always have a conflict between what they believe within their own beliefs, and he thinks that smart people do. I can also see the duality of him going against the three kings he is working with. Then, does that mean Meta Tojiro is not our opponent? Well, I think that he'd still be an opponent, although probably not as big of an opponent as Sashat. Probably not, because he seems to manipulate Meow to arrive at the destination he wants him to be. The destination which is probably the horrific scene we are seeing, throwing away the body of flesh. Oh, the factory. We'll get to that. I know it is a wild theory and probably untrue. However, I think Tojiro is definitely someone who wants this to happen. At least appease him. Just look back at the discussion he had with Sashat at the start and his ideals. Yeah. That's what I was just talking about. Maybe this future he wanted happened because of Meow, but now in the future he sees that it was a horrible idea and wants to prevent it. The prophet says that he is a program which wants to destroy Meow, but he also says he likes the thrown away meta body look better, probably meaning he is not against the utopia, but for it, which means he is our opponent because it is a horrific utopia that he wants. Oh yeah, I think the blue and gold bodies are most likely the avatar-like bodies, the body free from flesh. And because we have a research group with similar-looking guards, it is highly likely that they are the ones who develop it. Vier says they had already found the cure for aging. What if the cure is throwing away the flesh, and she has already done it, or close to it? Wait. So, yeah, well, I guess you never really see under Vier's clothes, so maybe if you took them off, she'd be all blue underneath. Or well, I don't know. I'm not sure if getting rid of the flesh is the same as those blue people, because I think that all of those scientists that are down under there have stopped aging. There are also interesting lines in first research group scene. They are already dead. This is the world of those who are not human. Already being dead, or possibly only the body being dead. Well, I thought that that was because they had all faked their deaths, and they were dead to the world. That was how I took those lines. It could be that simple, but it could also, like with Ryukishi, sometimes it looks like it's that simple, and then it turns out that it means something completely different. Possibly only the body being dead. There are many interesting lines that can be related to that horrific future. Also, listen to the lyrics of the ending song. It seemed to be romanticizing the idea of throwing away the body for a higher spiritual existence. Again, it can link with the factory scene, but also with faith in general. Well, that was quite the rambling, but to summarize it, my prophet theory is Tojiro, or Vier, or future Meow, himself, herself, because he copies his father many times and would also explain the look of the prophet. That's a pretty good theory. So, yeah, just so you know, if anybody wants me to go through their theories, then I'll just comment them, and then I'll probably go through them, and I'll give my comments on them like I did with that one. So, yeah, I think that as I was reading that comment, I gave a pretty good explanation of what I think. And I'm going to get back into that. I understand why they told me to why they were saying that this comment had a lot to do with this scene. So I'm going to get back into my thoughts on that. But just I've got to, because the next thing that happens in this scene is a lecture given by this this like military teacher who can't draw, and the students make fun of him for it, but I don't know, he's not paying attention. But he's teaching them about the idea that war is, well, not war itself, but military might is needed. It is necessary. Otherwise, the walls of peace will fall. The walls of peace have to be held up by both sides. And it talks about how there's a lot of world building in this one. I want to go through all the world building too. So the world building is basically World War III happened because a lot of people stopped because of how good the military got after World War II. And the wars that were happening, and we saw, and we're all interconnected, and we're able to see all the crazy shit of war now. War was very harsh for a lot of people, obviously. so lots of people were quitting the army as like a protest against the military. And there was another Great Depression that I guess is going to happen in a few years or something. It said early 20th century. So I'm guessing in this story, a few years from now, Great Depression starts. And so a lot of countries start cutting down on military spending so that they don't have to spend as much money. And the problem that arises is that not all countries cut down on their military spending, which leaves certain countries kind of out in the open and not able to defend for themselves as much as they could if they didn't cut their military spending. So that's a big cause of World War III. That's probably not the only cause, but that's part of it. And yeah, because it goes on to say that like the walls of peace weren't being supported, and that's a big reason why the war started. So the only way to support the walls of peace and be peaceful with the world is by having a strong military. Is if all the countries have a really strong military, which when we get to the end of the story, when you get to the end of phase 1, you find out that that's not exactly true, because a war still breaks out, even though the different countries are trying really hard to hold up the walls of peace. Like the different militaries, the different militaries are trying really hard to hold up the walls of peace. But there's other forces that wants the world to be at war. And it's not stopped by military might. And military might actually makes it worse. It seemed to make it worse at the end. But that's kind of what Tojiro. This is where I get back into talking about Tojiro, because in the middle of this discussion about, because basically the instructor is saying military might is good and we need it, but then it goes into like Tojiro, who is Meow's dad, and Seshat, some woman with like ancient Egyptian clothing. I don't understand if that's like a new fashion or like a high class fashion in the future where you wear ancient. Like, that's all I can think of. I don't know if that's racist, but I don't know. I don't want to be racist, but it looks like ancient Egyptian clothes. I don't know if she could be from ancient Egypt. I don't know. But what happened? He has a different. He says that people are crazy because they can't think for themselves, and the instructors, because the instructor is telling all these students in the class that they have to believe that military might is good, otherwise they're bad. But Tojiro says, and I 100% agree with him on this, he thinks that they shouldn't teach stuff like that, like in that way, because it makes people scared to have a discussion about things, and it makes it so that everything just goes completely one way, and then too much of one thing is never a good thing. And it's important to have debates over this sort of thing, and having a strong military might not be the only thing that is needed to keep up the walls of peace. And there might be other different things, and it might not even be the most important thing. It's something that would have to be debated, is what he's talking. You'd have to debate it, and I think that's what Hollyon Sama was saying, because later on, Tojiro is working with the Three Kings, but he could also maybe be working against it, because there could be a part of him that might think, hey, I don't like what the Three Kings are doing, and I do have faith in humanity, because in this scene, he says that he does have hope in humanity. And there is a scene later where he says that all people deserve to die, but he witnesses something in that scene that that scene made me want everybody to die too, so I can see where he's coming from. But yeah, it's very conflicting, the path that he has already, even if he isn't behind the prophet Meow. So I think that he has a good heart. That's something that I thought the whole time while I was reading. I just think that he had an opportunity to use it in the wrong way. I think that I'm not sure if he actually thinks that the world will be better if they bring about the apocalypse, but there might be a part of him that thinks that. And it might be an internal debate that he's always having. That sounds like Tojiro to me. And then, after that, the episode ends. Sashat and Tojiro. Tojiro won judo competition bet against Sashat, which, because that's something that's talked about later too, is how Tojiro is able to kind of tell the future. So maybe... No, I'll say it anyway because it's a theory crafting video, but maybe that program that's in her head, maybe it wasn't put there by anybody. Maybe it's just a genetic thing. Maybe maybe in that family they just have little programs in their head that tell them the future. Or maybe what's probably more realistic is that Vier put it into Tojiro's head, and also then they put it into Meow's head together. But something else I wanted to point out is that I didn't realize this because I'm stupid. I didn't realize this when I was reading, but it was pointed out that Tojiro's name is an anagram for Tomitake from Higurashi, and that they're the same character. So, bleh. Okay, everybody, I hope you have a good day. That's the end.